Hey Bars gang, welcome back to another episode of Dropping Bars. And today I have a dear friend of mine with me to chop it up with me and drop some major bars for you. With me today on the show is the one and only Miss Lorna Dale Charles. Dale, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kimron. Thank you for having me, and hello to your audience as well. This has been in the making for some time, Kimron. Congrats, boy.
Thank you.
Whew.
Great. So, Dale, we're good friends, and I know a bit about you, but the audience looking on may not know. So tell us, who is Lorna Dale Charles?
Hmm. No, strange enough, that's one of the questions I have a problem answering. So I'll try my best here. So I consider myself a social scientist, simply because all my tertiary education has been in the social sciences. I'm a lifelong learner and I'm a highly motivated individual with a keen sense of the importance of education. In the last few years, I spent it in academia, developing myself and also the nation's students. Um, some of some of who are now doctors, lawyers, psychologists, sociologists,
Mm,
mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, food scientists, business professionals,
impressive.
entrepreneurs, right? I'm an archaeologist trained in the areas of heritage of indigenous peoples and heritage education. I am a very industrious professional. I'm very critical and analytical, as you know, Kimron, and and I have an inquiring mind. So most of the time, I do not agree with what my colleagues or my friends would say. However, Kimron, to answer your question and to let the audience know who I am, I'll put it simple. I'm a social scientist, I'm an educator, and I'm an archaeologist. That's who I am in a nutshell.
Right. And one of the things that I know about you is, at least from what I understood, I don't know if that has changed now, is that you are the lone trained archaeologist in Grenada in the areas of heritage. So is that still the case? Are you still Grenada's lone trained archaeologist?
I am actually. I am. I am Grenada's only trained archaeologist in the areas that I mentioned: heritage education and heritage of indigenous peoples.
That's quite impressive, and I want to jump into that a little bit because I've growing up, when somebody asked me, what I wanted to be, I would say, let's say maybe a doctor or a lawyer or a police officer or whatever the case is. My friends will have other things. They want to be an engineer. I never heard anyone say, I want to be an archaeologist. And that's just growing up in Grenada, and so that's interesting for me that you went down that path of archaeology. So what was that journey like? Is it that you always wanted to be an archaeologist, or how did you become an archaeologist? What was your journey like
Well, where do I start?
from the beginning?
Okay, so did I always wanted to be an archaeologist? No. How I became an archaeologist? By accident, but I'll explain. Um, I wanted to be a lawyer initially. However, when I graduated from secondary school, you did your CXC subjects and you waited for results. Boom, result came out. I got zero subjects, right? And my life in that moment was falling apart because I had a major loss the year I was writing my CXC exams. I lost my dad. We were very close. He was my breadwinner. He was everything, and I just lost it. But I guess I was composed, and I kind of went through a phase that nothing really mattered then. But when reality hit, when the results came out, it's like, what do I do with myself? The goal was to go to TAM CC, but my breadwinner is not there. So definitely no TAM CC, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I thought of it for a while, and I said, okay, I'm going to go back to school. However, I didn't go back to the school I graduated from. I went to another secondary school in Grenada. Somebody took a chance on me because I explained to them why I didn't get any subjects. I was going through a phase, having that major loss, right? So I went through that phase, took another year, wrote my exams. I was successful. then still no money because my breadwinner is not there. It's like, okay, so I need to find me a job. I wrote over 300 applications, one response. That time there was
Wow.
no computer and all these fancy things. Remember, I'm coming from a working class family. Computers are luxury back then if you calculate our age, right, Kimron? So I wrote all these applications, delivered it everywhere I possibly thought of. Got one response, did that job. So then, okay, what do I do? I did a job for about 3 years. I got a promotion. Something was missing. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to school. So I started my undergraduate degree. I went there and, okay, I want to be law. Be a lawyer. So I want to study law. So I did a undergraduate degree in liberal studies and I majored in international politics because that's the path I want to go to, right? Having done that, graduated, I went on to do some further studies. And you asked how I became that. I think two colleagues was having a conversation, a friend and a colleague having a conversation. And I've always had a love or passion for history. However, the downfall of that is like how history is taught is that you have to remember dates. And I'm not one who can regurgitate stuff and remember things. So kind of strayed from history for a bit. But in my undergraduate years, I met one professor who brought history to life, Dr. Nico Philip Dow, right? And it's like, how can I learn more? Because I did probably about two courses that would give me some real understanding of history, not the cramming of dates, not remembering the three ships Columbus came on, actual history, right?
I
But
know
but
them.
that
The
came
Nina
right
de Pinta de Santa
and
Maria.
Santa
I know them.
right. So fast forward to how I became an archaeologist. Somebody took a chance on me, and remember that there's no in our school curriculum there is no pathway for becoming an archaeologist, right? Nobody says they want to become an archaeologist, a lawyer, doctor, maybe a policeman, a nurse, teacher, of course, right? So somebody took a chance on me. Um, I got this email. It's like, how would you like to go to the Dominican Republic to do some field work? Hmm. Okay, sure. Why not? In conversations while in the Dominican Republic, I got there. The opportunity came up. How would you think? How would you feel about going to study archaeology? Sure. Why not? I'm a risk taker. I didn't think twice. Yeah, archaeology. Yeah. The direction of archaeology, where I wanted to go. So I had to put that into context because there are many areas of archaeology. There's a field archaeologist. There's my area, which is heritage of education. There is bioarchaeology and so on, right? So there's multiple routes you can take into becoming an archaeologist. But I think I took the route because I was already in academia. I was working in academia. I was teaching. I was like, okay, there is this gap. How do I change a narrative as an educator and not just letting students remember those dates and the ships? Back to that story, right? How and I was like, there must be a beginning, right? So it's like, okay, heritage of indigenous peoples, and let me explain what heritage of indigenous peoples is. It's what we would call the Caribs and the Arawaks.
Hmm.
Having studied archaeology, what I've realized is that there are multiple groups, so we can't simply put them into brackets of Caribs or Arawak. That is why it's called indigenous peoples. And notice I'm
Hmm.
focusing on the S a lot, right? Because
Right.
there are different groups of indigenous peoples. In the Grenadian context, we refer to them as, which is sort of discriminatory, but we still teach it in the school, indigenous people. So that's what they're called. So that's why that's the path I took. And here I am, I suppose, as Grenada's trained archaeologist in that particular area.
Okay. And I imagine along the path, so one of the things that you said is you got you got an opportunity to go and do some, I guess, excavating, digging or so in the Dominican Republic. And while there, somebody might have seen, okay, well, she seems to have an aptitude for this, so let's see if she would like to go and study it further. Obviously, you accepted and you moved on because, and one of the things that you said is that at that point you were in academia. So is it a case that you were teaching, or you were an educator at the time when you got to go?
Yes, I was teaching at St. George's University here in Grenada. So
Okay.
I was already in the field of being an educator. Yeah.
Okay, great. So, I mean, along the way, I mean, that has been like a crazy journey. Like, I mean, you went from, hey, I did my CXAs, got no subjects, but that
Right.
didn't stop you. You persevered, went back, finally got your subjects, then went on to do your undergrad. Here we are now, going and do your masters in archaeology. Um, Grenada's lone archaeologists. There must have been some, I guess, challenges that you faced along the way. What would you say are the biggest challenges that you faced along the way, and how did you overcome those?
The challenge, I would not say that I would have had challenges. Let me explain. Simply because every experience I would have had would have got me to this point. So in
Mm,
retrospect, I do not see them as challenges. It was a process or processes that I needed to take to get me to that point. My challenge, however, or my biggest obstacle is being, I suppose, the lone archaeologist in my field. And I may get some fire from this, but I need to say it. Generally, in the Grenadian context, there are weak institutions. And as an archaeologist, the obstacle for me is as a nation, and I would argue here that we have not gotten to the point where we use our history and the past as guiding principles for our future. And because of these weak institutions, archaeological establishments like museum, a national archive, a public library, for example, has not developed to the point where I suppose people like myself or the skill set that we have cannot be utilized to the fullest. And I
mm,
want to explain this. Understanding one's identity or how our identity is shaped, and by connecting all parts of our heritage, both the tangible and the intangible heritage, we can have a greater appreciation of our history and how that history and identity has shaped us. What I mean by this is cultural identities have their roots in the past, and our material culture shapes who we are. And I mentioned that I'm training indigenous peoples, right? And there is a narrative that goes on in Grenada whereby they all leapt to their death in Leapers Hill. And so they're extinct. They no longer exist on our landscape. That's a false narrative, right?
mm,
But you don't hear, I'm not seeing that we're trying to redress that in our academic or in our education system. There are continuities of the indigenous past, and we utilize it as modern Grenadians. And I'm using the word modern Grenadians because then there's a different argument that I can make, right?
right.
So, if, for example, the material culture that we utilize today, that the indigenous peoples use, or simple things, plantains. I love plantains. I'm sure you love plantains
Of
as well,
course.
Kimron. Yams,
Absolutely.
corn, sweet peppers, sweet potatoes. These are all foods that we utilize, right, as modern Grenadians in this landscape. However, there is a disconnect, right, that we still teach our colonial past, and that narrative has to be changed, right? So my role as an archaeologist is to help bridge that gap. But I'm having that obstacle, I would say, because when we hear archaeologists, I think most people think about excavations and digging and so
Mhm.
on. But there is, like, as I explained, there is so much more to archaeology. And our history needs to be redressed because while the narrative has changed due to a number of the excavation that has taken place in the Caribbean, right, in the Southern Caribbean, the narrative is needs to be changed in our education system. But somehow we still hold on to our colonial encounters and what they would have left for us. That narrative seriously needs to be changed. So that's one of my obstacles. That's my challenge right now, Kimron. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I feel you. And so you're facing that challenge, and I guess it's an ongoing fight. And if I know you, like I think I do, it's not one that you're gonna give up easy. So
Not at all. Not at
so
all.
I'm just on the sideline cheering you on, and whatever support I can providing that support. Um, Along the way, I'm pretty sure that there were some lessons that you learned. What would you say are three major lessons that you learned along the way that you can share with our audience?
Well, okay, I'll break it down. I'll break it down into the three things that I would have expressed as who I am, right?
Okay.
First of all, I'm a social scientist. And based on, I suppose, from my secondary school time and graduating without any subjects, one of the lessons that I've learned is like, know who you are. That's where your power lies. Do not let other people define you based on what they think about you or what they think they know about you. However, be true to yourself and be your best authentic self, particularly as life is a journey of constant introspection. Search for answers and search for it looking in instead of looking out. Sometimes we want to be validated by others, we want to be accepted by others. Try checking inside it because nobody knows who you are more than you. And I learned that by studying in the social sciences, right? Because all my training, as I mentioned, has been in the sciences. Stop caring about what people think about you and be confident. And I mean, be very confident in the fact that not everyone is going to like you, right? As an archaeologist, mm, studying archaeology has given me a clearer perspective on why culture and why one's heritage must be preserved and protected. Studying in the field has allowed me and is allowing me to better understand the impact of colonial encounters, indigenous cultures, and the ways in which our Caribbean identities were shaped because of the different interactions and the emergence of these diverse cultures. As an educator, right? So with the training in the social sciences, the training as an archaeologist, my academic skill set, I am better able to incorporate different perspectives, different levels of teaching, cultural studies, ethics, government and politics, of course, history, international relations, sociology, human and physical biology. I understand that in the broadest context. Additionally, I mentioned that I'm a lifelong learner. So I make it my duty to to explore and improve complex concepts, right? And particularly as I work in higher education, so that I'm better able to give my students every tool that they need, not just to succeed in the classroom, but also to succeed on the life as a whole. So these are the three, it might be a mouthful, but these are the three lessons or most important things based on the different areas or
Right.
based on the different roles I play. Each one has taught me something, and that's what it has taught me.
So I want to deconstruct a little bit the last lesson that you learned, because I know so how you broke it down. It's, this is what you would have learned along the way. I mean, you're a lifelong learner, and education is, I know education is very important to you. But so in that regards, what are you saying? Because I know that's how it is for you. But then what are you saying then to the person who's watching? Um, is the message that we should be lifelong learners? Is the lesson that we should forever be, I would say, trying to educate ourselves and get better? Like, so, because I mean, I heard what you said and I understand it, but I want you to make it simpler for me.
Okay, so I'm happy to answer that question because sometimes I note that parents, we get carried away with the CXC subjects. Oh, this person got 10 subjects, my son got 15, 20 subjects, right? So for me, there's a difference between education and certification, right? Not all of us are academically inclined, right? There is something out there that every one of us are passionate about. Somebody might want to be a dancer. Somebody might want to be a musician. However, we tend to bog in our kids into being doctors, lawyers, da 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 da, right? How my focus here as an educator and to that person out there who feel that oh they don't have any subjects or they only have two subjects and it doesn't mean nothing. It means a lot. It means that you're capable of accomplishing something. Find your craft. You're good at something, right? And as I mentioned, nobody knows you more than you do. So you know where your strengths are, right? Harness it and zoom in on that and go beast mode. Because at the end of the day, you have to put in the work. I mean, I mentioned that I left secondary school with no subject, but I've always been an intelligent person, and there are different levels of very levels of intelligence. It's not all about academics. So for the people out there who doesn't have any subjects or didn't go to secondary school, you matter, and you have a role to play in our society as well. We can't all be doctors, lawyers, and politicians, right? Somebody has to do something, but just be good at it, right? So that's what I would say if I have to break it down.
Absolutely.
Not just it's not just about the certification in terms of I have this degree, I have this da da da. I have met and one of the things that you know, Kimron, that I'm very good at is stopping and talk to regular people on the street. We call them mad, we call them vagrants. Those are the people who are related, and they are the smartest people. And the thing is, what we probably lack is opportunities or spaces where they can go and really be something. And maybe that's something I would touch on and probably if you invite me again to your show.
All right, but I get what you said, and I think that's what, because when you spoke, I intuitively understood that that's what you were getting at, because it's things that we've spoken about in the past. But right. I wanted you to break it down a little bit more so that the person who is viewing can could really understand exactly what you said and not misconstrue anything. So thank you so much for dropping those bars on us. And as we wrap up, I want you to live with a young person across in the Caribbean who's looking at this. What is one nugget of wisdom that you can share with a young person who is consuming this content, looking or watching this show? What is one nugget of wisdom that you can leave young people of the Caribbean with?
Let me think about that. We all have a past, right? We all have made choices that maybe we aren't proud of, and weren't the best ones. And we need to stop being judgmental. None of us, absolutely none of us are perfect, right? And none of us are completely innocent of anything. You know the saying, as the Bible says, he who is without sin cast the first stone.
Yep.
Right? So none of us are completely innocent. However, what we do get to do is to wake up every day, once we get an opportunity to wake up, to be a better person than we were yesterday, right? That's what I would say to the young people. So don't let others put you into that bracket or that category, right? None of us are perfect. And to the not so young people, those who have opportunities where they can improve other people's lives or other person's lives, is take a chance on somebody, because at some point somebody took a chance on you. That is what I would say, Kimron.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Wow. Bars. So, I did say that was the last question, and dropping bars is not a very long show, but I want to ask you something on air in front of everybody. I'm going to put you on the spot, and let me apologize in advance. But one of the things that we've spoken about offline is that you were working on a show. You're working on, you're working on something. It's been in the making for a while. As a matter of fact, we spoke about this even long before,
You
I
decided to drop in
you started
bars.
talking about dropping bars. You were
You're
going to do
correct.
something, launch a show. So first of
Oh,
all, is it still happening? And if yes, tell me what's the name of it, and just give me like in 1 minute a synopsis of what it will be, and maybe an idea as to when maybe we can expect it.
you're really putting me on the spot now, right?
I apologize
So
in advance. Huh?
yeah. So yeah, the show that we spoke about is called The Social Mind, and The Social Mind, it has been in the making for about 3 years, but COVID came and other things like behind the scenes happened. The website is already built, the domain is already bought. There's information has been posted on the website. So I have been working on it behind the background. But in terms of the actual launch of the social mind, give me November 1st, thereabouts. That's my plan actually for
Okay.
and I guess you have motivated me and inspired me. It's like, okay, listen, Kimron and I spoke about this. Kimron is there dropping bars. I need to do the social mind. And the social mind is addressing some of the things that I've mentioned here, right? Of course, I'm very passionate about education. So I would be talking about the difference between education and certification. And parents really need to stop putting these pressure on the kids, right? Um, there's an emergence of a new political culture. I wrote a piece about it. It's on the social mind. So I wanna have somebody come and expound on it in different ways because as I suppose people who are trained in a particular way, when we have in certain discussions, we understand what it means. But I want to break it down for the persons who have not had the opportunity to probably sit in a classroom, the guys on the block. I want to break it down and connect with them. And that is why it's called a social mind. It's really dealing with the social issues that affects and impact us daily. So there will be an sex and sexuality. Oh, I have some specialists come in and talk about it and break it down. It's like everything that is tabooed that I mean we do it hypocritically, but when it comes to the public, we sort of again judgmental. So everything
Hmm.
I said today, Kimron, is connected to the social mind. And I guess it's part of who I am as well. So the
Right.
social mind is coming. It's going to be on in November, and you can hold me to this this time.
Okay. Well, you said it. You said it. I am going to ensure that this part make it into the final edit. So when I publish this interview, everybody's going to see it. Okay.
Right.
So we holding you accountable. So Lana Dale, thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you so much for coming on and dropping those bars with our audience. And to everyone watching, thank you so much for tuning in to another week of Dropping Bars. And tune in next week when I will have another special guest with me to drop some bars on you. So thank you, Dale, and thank you everyone who's watching. And I will see you next week.
Thank you, Kimron, for having me.